I used to live next door to these, Nick, they were really old people, man. I'm telling you, these guys they weren't just like kind of old. They were super old, like older than dirt. And my wife and I, we had small kids at that time, and we'd be outside on our back porch, and you got 3 kids. You're just trying to make it through an evening. You're just trying to make it. Can we make it to 8? That's the quick, because that's when they're going to go to bed. So, I'm throwing footballs and frisbees and swimming in the pool and all. And every night at the same time, this couple would walk down their backyard, and we'd watch them. I'd look at my wife at the corner of my eye like, what in the world? That's not fair. Because they'd walk all the way down to the back of their yard, out on their dock. We lived on one of the rivers here in town, and they'd sit on the dock and they'd watch the sun go down every night. And this went on for months. And my wife and we'd talk about it waking up. We'd talk about it going to bed. Man, how do these people have that kind of time? It's wild. So one time I was outside, the old guy comes over to talk to me, great guy. And I was like, man, I got to tell you, my wife and I, we were so impressed with you guys every night, the same time. You guys, I've never seen a sunset that I don't look out on your dock and you're not watching the sunset. That's wild. And he said, Mike, I got to tell you, I spent a lot of time working. My kids were young. I wasn't home a lot. I missed a lot. And when I retired, I made the decision, I'm never going to miss another sunset with my wife. And he said, not every night I have the ability to physically walk out on that dock, I'm watching the sunset. And for me, I'm like, man, what a massive example of what we need to be doing. That's a focus on a process. That's a mindful moment. Like, okay, I'm just going to take in the beauty and the incredible awe experience of a sunset. If that doesn't make you feel like you're just a part of something bigger, I don't know what will. Yeah. And that's the direct opposite of what our culture teaches us, because our culture teaches us, don't worry about sunsets. Don't worry about healthy eating. Don't worry about, kind of being present with the people you love. Worry about outcome. What's your next promotion? How can you get an Instagram worthy photo? How can you, have the wedding that is like the perfect experience for everyone to see and view? And it's a dead end street, man. It's never enough. We're only as good as our last win or loss.
Thank you for sharing that. I think it's an incredible example, and really, and it hits home. Like, we don't make enough time for that kind of stuff daily. I don't make enough time for that. And I mean, I remember a few months back, my girlfriend saying to me, I just want to go for a walk with you and just talk. Yeah. And I, because I was going through a stressful period, and I'd be, having to stop and take a phone call or whatever it was. And I was like, oh, got it. It's kind of, the simple things. And I, started doing it more, and I was like, oh, I forgot I enjoy this stuff so much. It feels so good to just pause and just go for a walk. No agenda. Just, take in your surroundings. Yeah. Look around, have a chat. On the weekend, I went into a diner and I wanted to have a day off. So I just sat there for 3 hours. I sat in a diner on my own, just having coffee and just people watching. And I felt incredible after just doing that. I was like, no agenda, overhearing some conversations. I was like, this is like actually the best time I've had in a while, because it was just like just allowing yourself to do nothing and just observe your surroundings, which it's kind of hard to do these days when we're just so bombarded.
Well, some of it's the technology too, though, Nick, because what you just described, it's a super, super healthy afternoon, a really healthy afternoon. For me, if I can go to the beach here in Central Florida, just sit out on the beach and watch the waves come in and out, man, that's a incredibly healthy afternoon for me. But what keeps me from doing that is it's this, man. It's always the technology that's at us 24/7, and our brains become just addicted to it. So I'm out on the back porch the other night trying to do some of this with my wife. We're sitting on our back porch, and I've got every opportunity in the world to look at her, ask her anything. Like ask her anything that is some reasonable question. Like, hey, how are you? Like how was your day? And for me, the compulsion, and I noticed myself doing it. I kept picking up my phone. Was that an email that came in? Was that it? Or intuitively, instinctively, we pick up our phones if we have a moment where there's not stimulation, and we'll open up social media like Twitter or Instagram or Facebook. And every time we swipe, there's a little hit of dopamine. Every time we swipe, every time that algorithm sort of produces something more for us to look at, there's another hit of dopamine. And when we live like that all the time, we just crave it. And when we're faced with the very things that nurture us, the very things that make us healthy, the very things that will ultimately help us be, a really healthy 90-year-old that can look back on our life and be satisfied with it, we choose the technology, we choose the dopamine almost instinctively. So I'm super impressed that you sat in a diner and didn't pick up your phone and didn't scroll and doom scroll for the 3 hours. That's pretty committed. I like it.
I won't take too much credit because I do fall into the doom scrolling almost daily and have to catch myself and stop.
Yeah.
It was refreshing to do it. So yeah, and I guess like you're saying, you sort of, I think that's a good filter to put things through. If you imagine being 90 years old, looking back on your life, you can instantly tell you what is and isn't important. And it's not to say you shouldn't be ambitious and having all these different pursuits, but the difference between whether, I guess if I go back to that acting example, just doing the thing and getting the result, if you're 90 years old looking back, you're not going to give a shit, I wouldn't think, about, oh, I got all this fame, I had these huge roles, I had this happen, that happen. You're probably just going to look back and think, oh, I did something I wanted to do that was important to me, that was in line with my values and meant something to me personally, and I got to do it, whether that was in front of 2 people in a community theater thing or in a short film or whatever the hell it was. I can't imagine you're going to really care about the other parts when you're looking back.
Yeah, I'll tell you this much. I've never sat with a client that was in the process of dying. I've not done that a ton, but I have had experiences where I've sat with people and they know, man, I've got cancer. I've got months, not years, or weeks, not months. I've never sat with anyone in therapy in that situation who said, man, I just wish I would have worked a little bit more. I wish, man, if I just would have gotten that promotion. That's never come out of anyone's mouth. Not one time. You know what has come out of people's mouths over and over and over again? I wish I would have spent more time with my family. I wish I would have, said some things to these people that I've never had the chance to say. I wish I would have done the things that, that inspire me, like go walking out in nature or going to the mountains or, whatever. So I think you're right, man. I ultimately think we get distracted by all the things that feel really good short-term, but long-term don't nurture our soul, man. They don't make us feel even like humans. All they do is get us caught up in that performance trap where we're driving for the next thing. Always, always, always. It's a kind of miserable life, honestly.
It is. It's depressing when you think about it. And I was talking to a psychologist the other day. I can't remember what they exactly said, but they were saying, the average person, if they're looking at their phone for 3 hours a day or 4 hours of screen time a day or whatever it is, if you added that up over, I don't know, 50, 60 years, whatever he had added up, it was more than a year of your life where you're, actually staring at a screen, which it becomes terrifying when you think about it like that. Like, I'm going to spend that much of my life just like with my head in a screen.
Oh, dude, I don't even like to think about it. What I don't like is I don't like thinking about kids growing up today. Cause I remember my childhood, my family were citrus farmers out on North Merritt Island, Florida. I grew up, Nick, in the middle of like thousands of acres of orange trees. And it was like me and my family. That was it. Like there were no other kids around. So we would get into the biggest like mayhem. I mean, you just would do stuff that right now, if my kids do it, I'd be like, oh my gosh, they're going to die. But for me, it was just standard operating procedure. You're playing with throwing rocks at alligators and coming face to face with like wild boars. It was wild. And I think of all those moments that I had with nature, just being outside, trying to find something to do. And then I think of these kids growing up right now, and I don't remember the data either as far as the actual numbers, but the amount of time that a kid spends on screens is super shocking. Like, it's really bad. I think the average high schooler in the US at least is spending like 3 or 4 hours a day on social media and on phones. That's not to mention the time they spend sitting in front of a computer doing homework, or the time they spend at school on screens. I mean, it's going to be a large part of people's lives that they spend looking at screens.
And then you add in watching, Netflix, TV, movies, whatever else. It's the majority of life. And it is so true. Like, I'm 38 years old and I feel so lucky that I just missed the boat of growing up with technology, and I was out in parks, and, you go and knock on your friend's door when you want to hang out, and you're riding bikes around town. And
yeah,
it does genuinely, I don't have kids yet, but it really worries me about the next generation, because this is just integrated into every single facet of life. Even if you want to try and moderate that around kids, you can only do that to such an extent because it's just part of the world.
Yeah, I think as parents, we've got to work really hard to give our kids experiences that don't include technology, that get them outside of our houses. Like, it was built into life 100 years ago. Like, you didn't have to worry about that. You wanted kids like, hey, go read, that sort of thing. Now it's, I need you to be out of this. I need you to like have sunshine in your eyes. Like you need to know what it's like to live in the real world. My wife and I made a decision, and I would say probably 15 years ago, that at least once a year, we were going to get our kids to the Florida Keys. And the reason we go to the Keys, I don't know if you've ever been to the Keys, Nick, there's nothing in the Keys. Like, if you go to a restaurant, it's like a hole in the wall. It's the worst. If you go to a gas station, it's awful. But the water, out in the water, it's beautiful, man. It's like crystal clear. So we take our boat down there and we spend at least a week every year snorkeling, spearfishing, fishing, just out in nature. And I'm telling you, I don't think I'll ever regret that, because my kids have the experience of like living life, at least for a week a year. I mean, at least there's something we can look back on, look at pictures, say, hey, remember that fish, or remember that dive. It's meaningful for kids. So, man, as parents, we've got to do a better job of getting kids in a position where they're experiencing life, having mindful moments, like moments of like, I live right here, right now, not I'm just like stuck looking at someone else's lives, or, on Netflix, watching someone pretend to be a cool gangster, or, whatever, that is not even remotely close to reality.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, we do need more of that. And, I miss that being when I'm in the US. Like, I feel very lucky that I've had parents that have, taken us on trips. We've got a holiday house in nature. My dad every year goes on hikes where you've literally just got all your tents and, your food and everything on your back, and you're off grid for 8 days. And a lot of the time I think, oh God, like, I'm coming back to Australia for a short amount of time. I'm going to spend more than a week of that on this hike. Like, can I be bothered? But then a few days in, it becomes literally the highlight of my year. I'm like, this is the best fucking thing I could have done.
Yes.
And by the end of it, you're like, I don't want to go back. Like, oh my God, like, your mind is so calm. It's almost like you just detox yourself, and it realigns things. And then it's kind of sad that, it doesn't take long after that to then fall back into the same patterns. But it really, it's astronomical how much of a difference it makes.